Here we have a go at a nice little bit of an axonometric drawing here of a dog kennel. So we're given the plan and this elevation view here. And one of the tricky bits in this you may not have encountered before is this little curve. Now one of the things I'm going to do slightly differently is they divide this up using 60-30 slices, which actually isn't the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to use ordinates instead. Now like before, we're going to get our axes down. We're going to draw, actually the first thing we'll probably do is draw our ABC triangle and then get our axes. These are just isometric axes. And then we'll set up for our plan and end view, put them in and do the drawing. Right, so get yourselves comfortable. Now on a page, I have actually rotated my page as you can see. So it's portrait view, long way up, just like this page. It just makes it a little bit easier. It'll probably fit on a normal page, but why put yourself through the stress and hassle and all that? So we'll just put this guy a little bit above halfway over to the right. So now, let's draw this as, we'll come over here a little bit, from 16 to, and there's 106 there. Okay, so we have that, and just to keep our colors going, I'll actually pop that into a green for you, so we can see. There we go. Now, nice little isometric, so we can just do this 60 degrees. So again, I'll just do a construction there, and then we can bring the green up this side here. There we go. Now, that's our little triangle. Happy days. So the next things we want to do is project down, find this line, and up here, and find this line. Now these distances, you can extend them. It doesn't have to be any particularly set distance. Just be aware that this goes down below the page a little bit, so we won't go mad on it. And if you kind of think, you know, about 100 down will work nicely. So we'll bring it down. Just see if we're still on camera. We're just about. Straighten ourselves up there. So I'll put my green line here. So to get it down, we just need to project down from the edges. No need to measure again, we've done it once. And there we go. Okay, we'll do the same, we'll project up this way. Now, how do we go up this one? Well, we can get a perpendicular just like that. Okay, so we'll send these up here. And you can see now this is going to give me my little green lines, so we will put this about here. Let's just see how we are on camera. We're just about. There we go. So there is our two little lines. Now, small little readjustment to keep us on track. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is get our XYZ axes. Now the nice thing is, because this is all the isometric, okay, and that's 30 degrees, we can get all of this done with our set square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down from the center. Actually drop this the whole way down because I'm going to use it right down in the bottom here. And there's one of my axes going across this way. See it right over there. And of course the other one will come from here. Alright, I'm going to pop these ones in. Let's see if we can keep our color scheme going here. And a bit of an orange. You guys don't need to use colors. This is just to help it be a little bit easier for you guys to see. Now, what that's done is that's given my XYZ axis. I'll label them, but it's not super important for the moment. XYZ, and we also have the center point for each of these guys. So the next thing I want to do is take my compass and draw a little bit of semicircles we see here in blue. Now, just to check yourself, pop your compass down. There it is. Before you dive off and draw it, just check it that it lines up neatly. Yeah, you could be off by a fraction of a millimeter, and it's no harm to just tweak that at this stage. There we go. Okay, and again we'll check this one. Looking fabulous. And often it's just the angle of the lead and how it contacts the page. So what that gives us now, we shall celebrate this exciting development with a blue pencil, is where the axes meet. So if we see, actually we'll keep this in red for consistency, this is now my axis, all right, my XY in this case. So we can just draw them in there. You can work out the angle of the tilt if you're doing the normal junior cert tech questions, but this is somewhat satisfying. Now I decided to give myself an extra challenge today by having no 45-degree set square. Not the most recommended exam technique in the world, but of course it's quite doable if you ever really had to do it. But don't do it, obviously, because, you know, really kind of tricky. Okay, so now that's all of our setup. So the next thing we need to do is actually draw in the little dog kennel. Now it's pretty simple. I mean, look here, rectangle 70 by 50 divided in half. That's the bottom, okay. Not too bad. So there it is. Just mark it up 70, 50. And of course I need the halfway point on this as well. So we'll take the 50 measurement and the 25. And if you get your 45, this would be an absolute doddle to draw. But if you like a challenge like me or are disorganized, then we just get to do it with a bit of practice on our sliding set squares. And this is one of those cases where the diagonal one can be kind of handy because we're drawing a lot of lines that are perpendicular to each other, so we can get them all in one go. And don't forget to heavy in along the actual axis. There we go. Okay, well that's one done. And the next one, we have a couple of measurements to deal with here. So let's see what we have. Now that's 60 degrees is just the angle of the green line, okay, which is the same as A to C, so we can ignore that. We do know it's 60 high and 40 plus something across, which is just a little bit annoying, but of course we know it's 50 because it's the same object. So let's get ourselves a little bit of a crate on it. There is 50. There is my halfway point, which could be useful. And if I go out 40 each side from that, that's 20 out each way, which is there and there. Again, if you want to make it a bit easier, just slide this. You can see it's easier this way, 20 and 40. So there's a couple of measurements, and we do know that it's 60 high. Okay, so let's get going with this for the moment. So again, I'm going to line this guy up here, okay, along that edge, and do take a moment to get this just right, because otherwise you're going to introduce errors throughout the whole drawing. So we can bring that across. Bring that up, that's the top there. And these up as construction lines. I do seem to be missing something. So let's go back and put that in, but it's no big deal. We should have drew the edge, but I'll go back and do that in a moment. We need to know where all this stuff stops. So there we are, 40 high. Sorry, yes, 40. That one is 40 because that one's 60, and then I'll need a 30 line as well. So let's go up here. There we are. So now again, we'll actually line up on the existing drawing. So I never drew in this little line, so let's pop that guy in there, and let's come across at 40. That gives me my top edges. So now, heavy in that. Heavy in that. You can see how this is going to give you a fabulous set square practice. It is heavy across the whole bottom. And these little guys here, so that's the center of my arc. And that brings me up to the edge of the arc. And so does this one here. The top is just connecting the dots. And all I gotta do is draw a little arc in now. Of course it has to be radius 20 because that's the distance from the center to here. Right, double check. It's a tiny bit off there. Lovely. I guess it's a little bit small, so I'm just going to use my finger to hold the pin in case it decides to be annoying. Grand. Well, that's the setup done. A couple of minutes into it, not too bad. So let's see where we're going to go next. Well, we may as well get the initial outline. The hard part's going to be the curve, so I'll do that last. Let's see, can we get the overall outline of where this all goes. So, to make things easy, I'm going to get this edge, which is the flat edge here, because it's going to be a big rectangle there, easy to see, and it'll make life, just kind of get me going. So I'm going to project up from this point. All right, across from there, but of course I can also realize that that's on the ground, so it has to be on the x-axis there. And we'll get across the top corner, and it's there. Now, I'm actually going to send this one all the way across because, of course, I have the other corner too. There we go. The other corner is this one here. Are we on camera for this? It's just the very bottom peak. It's that one there. So we'll send that up. And there it is. Now, I can see this edge. It's a big, clear edge, so I'll just put the whole thing in heavy now. There's nothing in the way, nothing to block it. And that's why I also like to start with this edge, because I know I can see it. I don't have to worry about, is it visible, is it not? It's definitely visible. Okay. Again, I'm going to try and get the roof next, because that seems like a nice clear piece that's fairly definitely visible. So let's go and get the apex. Send a construction line across for 2 points of that. They're somewhere along there. Again, we're not going to worry about angles, we're going to find the points. So there's 1 point. It's up there. And there's the other point. Just nice and systematic like that. And we can put these guys in. Now, if you wanted to double check it, these angles should be parallel. They're parallel in one view, they're parallel in the other views. And there we have it. Now, I wonder, can we see the other side? So, let's see where that's going to be. Well, you may realize that you can just come straight across from here and find the bottom. You know, there it is, straight up from there. So, that works quite nicely. Now careful, that's not necessarily a point. I know it looks like one. We'll come across from here and there's the point. Equally, we could have come down from there and you'll see it lines up as well. But you can use your orthographic skills to move around it. And that will show me that I can actually see this edge here. There it is. This is the fun little thinking bit of it. Alright, now this dog kennel is open in the front, closed in the back, so I'm not going to draw a heavy line across the bottom. What I will do though is I can see from here now that I am going to see this far edge. So we just draw that as construction going back. Again, there's a few ways you could find this point. You could realize it's on the y-axis. You could project across from the other corner and get it, or you could project down, where are we going? From the back corner and get it. There's loads of ways. So that's the fun of this. There's multiple different choices and they're all pretty much as easy as each other. I like projecting around it, but every now and then cross-checking means you'll pick up an error if you made one. So it's no harm to reference a few back to the drawing, but you can see how quickly it can be done. So there's the roof. I didn't have to visualize it or picture could I see it or not. I just checked it. Now, that's all the easy bits done. Almost. Well, I think we'll put in some of these lines here. So let's get this little front doorway thing done. So we know all the front is along that edge, so I don't actually need to project it up, or frankly even know where it is. I'll just come across from here. There's 1 point. Come across from here. There's the next. Okay. Construction line up. And construction line up. They don't quite meet this top, but they go a little bit lower down. I'm just going to check the angle on that. That's slipped. There we go. They come from here. So we'll just bring this line in. There it is. That gives me my point there. And the same on the other side. So I'm just going to heavy in this little section of it so I can see what I'm doing. Just makes the next bit a little handier. And again, if you're worried about are they off a little bit, what you're looking for is symmetry. They should be the same size. So if one's looking a bit fatter than the other, then there's a little adjustment needed there. Okay, now to make life easier, I'm going to connect these two because I will need this center point. And there's a few ways to get this. What they try and show you here is dividing the 60/30s, transferring these distances down to here and projecting it. It's not bad. It's not as good as what I'm going to do. We're going to do some ordinates, okay, because these are easier to reproduce. Now here's a little trick. That's 20 mil in diameter. What I'm actually going to try here now, let's see if this works, is go 8 and 8 and nothing. And that should give me a fairly good breakdown. Okay, so we'll just check this before we dash in. We could do 7 and 7s. But if you look at what this is going to do, that is going to give me a fairly even spread. All right, and so just as a tip, the way I kind of figured this out, so those are 8 mils, and I mean, it's going to be 4, but who cares? We're only measuring out from the center. Don't divide it evenly by 3. Leave these two a little bit bigger and leave that smaller. Okay, and I'm just going to measure out from the center. We'll do exactly the same on the other side. And this is going to give me some little ordinates. Okay, we'll come out at 8 and 8. 7 and 7 would not have been a disaster either. So it's on this line here. You get a little bit better at this with practice, guessing the numbers. But really we're looking for some points along this line. Now we'll actually put these in a nice little blue so you can see where they are. Okay, I don't really need a center one. I can actually find that quite easily by projecting that across. So we'll just take the center one across for the moment. It's on that center line, so there it is. The others are somewhere along here. So that's 8 mil, there to there, and another 8 there to there. And exactly the same on the other side. 8 mil there to there, 8 mil there to there. Once your points are reasonably well spread, this will work. But of course the key with this one is it's very, very easy to reproduce that down here. And that's why we're using this technique. I'm just going to come out 8 this side, and 8 this side, and then 16, there it is there, and 16. Okay, this is a little bit handier. So we have made our little ordinates, and ordinates is just a line along there, all right? And we can very quickly replicate those points down here because they are, of course, 8 from the center. And that's what makes this easier than the 60/30 because you got to try and transfer the measurements. Not a big deal, but it is a bit. So it's kind of worth doing. Now all we need to do at this stage is just transfer the points. So I'll just transfer these two one by one to remind you of how it's going to work. You will end up with a lot of lines here, so you've got to be a little bit careful. Okay, so there's a point there, and we'll just see that that is a line coming up from here. You can always just stick this one in, so it's the outside line there, and there we are. Actually, and that's it right there. Okay, so it can be a little bit tricky as we get these ones. Imagine these are our 4 little points there, there, and there. So let's bring our next one across. It comes across, and I can see it's going to be about there, so I won't extend the line too far just to make life easier. And then up, and there it is. And this makes sense. This is a nice little curve. So let's do the next one. And there is a danger if you do them all in one go, you can really get yourself lost in a mess of lines. So now as you look at this one, which one is it? Is this one or this one? Very easy to check because I think it's this one. Yes. There we go. And then our last little line. Just be careful as you pick this one up because it's at a funny angle. So I can see it's the middle of the 3. That's how I'm going to remember it. We just send it up, and there it is, and there's our end. So now that we have all of that, we can go and just sketch in our curve. See the way it becomes quite steep at the far end. So that's looking pretty good, and we're almost there. Just one little line left. You can see is, of course, the inside edge, which goes up to the curve and stops. And there you have it.